All right, let's talk about something that will make you clutch your own furry companions a little tighter, perhaps even side-eye them suspiciously if they so much as about chasing a squirrel towards a busy road. We're diving into the curious case of AJ Lashbrook. You might know him from the internet, specifically YouTube, where people apparently go to, well, be themselves. Or perhaps you know him by his rather grand declaration as AJ of the family Lashbrook, which sounds less like a modern bloke and more like a minor character in a low-budget medieval fantasy series desperately seeking a storyline. He found himself in a spot of bother, a rather significant spot involving his Staffordshire bull terrier Chloe. And when I say bother, I mean a criminal conviction for causing unnecessary suffering to an animal. Yes, kind of bother. The incident itself, well, it wasn't exactly a quiet, contemplative stroll in the park culminating in a shared ice cream. No, this particular episode unfolded near a Cineworld in Middlesbrough, of all places, back in November 2018. Imagine you're off to see the latest superhero flick, juggling your Tango Ice Blast and a comically oversized bucket of popcorn, and then you witness performance. Eyewitnesses, those unfortunate souls, reported seeing Lashbrook pin Chloe, his then 2-year-old dog, to the ground. He allegedly used his knee to hold her down on a patch of grass, and then, the accounts state, he repeatedly punched her with a clenched fist. All this, while, and I quote from reports, screaming indiscriminately in her face. Utterly charming. The kind of street theatre no one asked for. Now, Chloe, the Staffordshire Bull Terrier at the very heart of this grim spectacle, was just a young dog, really. Only 2 years old at the time of the incident. The RSPCA, an organisation whose entire purpose is, preventing cruelty to animals, understandably stepped in. And quite rightly, they made a request to the court. They asked for Lashbrook to be banned from owning animals. They also wanted Chloe to be seized, presumably to ensure her future safety and well-being, which seems like a fairly logical step following a conviction for, let's remember, sensible, you might think, but hold on to your flat caps, because the magistrates, in their infinite wisdom, or perhaps after consulting a particularly lenient magic 8-ball, decided against it. Yes, despite the conviction, Lashbrook was allowed to keep Chloe. This whole sorry affair came to a head in 2019 when Lashbrook, who was 31 at the time of the articles, was convicted. It's worth noting he also goes by Adam Lashbrook, a name he reportedly described as a legal fiction. Right. Because when you're in court for allegedly battering your dog, the most pressing and relevant issue is clearly the philosophical status of your birth name. It adds a certain to the proceedings, doesn't it? A layer of performative eccentricity that frankly does little to distract from the rather ugly core of the story. This wasn't just a fleeting moment of poor judgment, this was a public display of sustained aggression towards a defenseless animal. And that, my friends, is where our story really begins. So, what was Lashbrook's explanation for this public outburst of canine-directed fury? According to him, it was all a terrible misunderstanding, a moment of panic, not rage. He claimed that his beloved Chloe had suddenly bolted into traffic, a heart-stopping moment for any dog owner, to be fair. His actions, he insisted, were born out of sheer terror for her safety. He wasn't being cruel, he was merely disciplining her.
Discipline with a knee and repeated punches? That's a curriculum I think most dog schools would politely decline to endorse, possibly while backing away slowly.
In court, Lashbrook painted a picture of profound dedication to his canine companion. He highlighted his 2 decades of experience as a dog owner, a track record he presumably felt should earn him some leniency. He even spoke of being haunted by a previous traumatic experience where another dog of his had tragically drowned. Chloe, he declared, was his whole life, his princess. He described her as essential for his well-being, even going so far as to claim she assisted him with undressing due to a spinal injury he suffered. A truly indispensable, multi-talented canine, apparently.
This was, in my words, a one-off stupid thing, and Chloe shouldn't be punished for actions by being taken away.
An interesting plea, considering the punishment was for towards. Then we have Lashbrook's public statements, notably in a conversation with a YouTuber named Taffy, because of course this saga has a YouTube dimension. Initially, he reportedly claimed he smacked her ass, just once. A simple disciplinary tap, perhaps. However, the narrative seemed to evolve. Later, he admitted to more than one smack on the ass, and then a rather crucial detail. His fist apparently made contact with Chloe's nose, but only because, in his telling, she jumped off at me. He also mentioned waving my fist in front of my dog's face, and contact was made because she lunged.
My dog is better looked after than most people's children.
A bold claim, especially under the circumstances. The chasm between Lashbrook's carefully curated narrative of a panicked owner delivering firm but fair discipline and the stark accounts from eyewitnesses and court reports is, shall we say, considerable. He downplayed the incident as a one-off stupid thing, a momentary lapse, yet those who saw it described him as incredibly intimidating and aggressive, repeatedly punching the dog and screaming in her face. These are not descriptions of a measured corrective tap. One version speaks of fear-driven protection, the other paints a picture of uncontrolled rage. It's rather difficult for both of these realities to occupy the same space-time continuum without one of them being, to put it mildly, a load of old cobblers. The journey through the legal system for A.J. Lashbrook was, it seems, as unconventional as his nomenclature. During the trial, he reportedly refused to cooperate fully with the RSPCA. Things got so fraught that he apparently came close to facing a contempt of court charge, which is never a good look. Adding to the courtroom drama, his own solicitor decided to abandon ship, leaving Lashbrook to fend for himself and act as his own legal representative. One can only imagine the solicitor suddenly remembering an urgent, unbreakable appointment to alphabetize their sock drawer, anything to be elsewhere. Representing oneself in court is a bold strategy, especially when the evidence includes multiple eyewitnesses describing you punching a dog. Despite the, let's call them, of his defense, the court did reach a verdict. A.J. Lashbrook was found guilty of causing unnecessary suffering to Chloe. The sentence handed down included a 12-month community order, a requirement to pay £1,000 in costs, and an £85 victim surcharge. However, in a decision that raised more than a few eyebrows and likely caused a fair bit of tea-spitting across the nation, the magistrates decided against banning him from keeping animals. Chloe, the victim of the proven suffering, was allowed to remain in his care.
You are now on the radar of the RSPCA.
Oh, good, the radar! That'll surely make Chloe feel safe. Unsurprisingly, Lashbrook had his own views on the RSPCA and the legal system that had just convicted him. He accused the RSPCA of profiteering, suggesting they weren't genuinely concerned with animal welfare. He claimed that in the 5 months following the incident, the RSPCA never once asked to see Chloe to check on her condition. He also stated he possessed a statement affirming Chloe looked fit, healthy and happy on the very day of the incident. Furthermore, he dismissed the court's apparent skepticism over video evidence he attempted to present, showcasing his dog.
Reality and what the media portray are two very different things.
Indeed, they often are, especially when reality involves punching a dog and the media accurately reports it. The court's decision to allow Lashbrook to retain ownership of Chloe despite the conviction ignited a significant public debate. Opinion was sharply divided. Some people expressed sympathy, pointing to Lashbrook's acknowledged mental health problems and his evident, if controversially expressed, attachment to Chloe, who he claimed was crucial for his well-being due to a spinal injury. Others, however, were understandably aghast. They questioned the fundamental justice of a system that would allow a convicted animal abuser to keep their victim. The central troubling question lingered. Had the legal system, in this instance, inadvertently prioritized the emotional needs of the human abuser over the safety and welfare of the animal he had harmed? This case really throws a spotlight on an incredibly difficult dilemma. How do we balance an owner's profound attachment and potential reliance on a pet, especially when factors like mental health and physical disability, as Lashbrook claimed, are involved against the absolute necessity to protect that animal from harm? Lashbrook described Chloe as his whole life, a creature that even helped him with daily tasks. Does that deep bond, however genuine it might be on his side, excuse or mitigate an act of violence? Is he really loves the dog, apart from that one time he repeatedly punched it, a sufficient defense or a sound basis for a court to return the animal to his care? It's a question that makes you want to bang your head against a very soft padded wall. From a legal standpoint, the court's decision is undoubtedly the most contentious aspect of this entire affair. Lashbrook was convicted. The RSPCA, the experts in animal welfare, explicitly requested he be banned from owning animals and that Chloe be removed. Yet, the magistrates chose a different path. Was the community order and financial penalty a sufficient deterrent? Did the outcome truly serve justice for Chloe, the silent victim who couldn't give her own testimony? Or did it inadvertently send a message that, under certain circumstances, causing unnecessary suffering to an animal might not result in the most obvious consequence, the removal of the animal from the source of that suffering? These are not comfortable questions, but they are necessary ones.
Prove what this dog means to you.
A rather nebulous instruction, isn't it? How exactly does one prove such a thing after being convicted of punching said dog in public through exemplary behaviour henceforth? Perhaps, but it places a significant burden of trust on an individual who has already demonstrably failed that trust in a violent manner. Is a stern talking to and a vague challenge to prove his affection a robust enough safeguard for Chloe's future well-being, especially when he's merely on the radar of an organization he publicly disparages? It feels less like a guarantee and more like a hopeful wish. Ultimately, the A.J. Lashbrook case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about how our society and our legal systems value animal welfare. When does discipline, a term Lashbrook clung to, unequivocally cross the line into abuse? And when that line is crossed and proven in a court of law, what are the most appropriate and effective measures to ensure an animal's future safety? While Lashbrook was allowed to keep Chloe, with the caveat of being on the radar, the public, and indeed anyone with a modicum of concern for animal welfare, is left to wonder about the countless other Chloes out there. One can only hope that Chloe, the Staffordshire Bull Terrier at the centre of this storm, is indeed being treated like the princess Lashbrook claimed her to be, and not like a punching bag.